I never finished reading Atomic Habits, not because I gave up, but because I stopped needing the book. Let's talk about the 10 episodes of my journey and what happened when I finally started living it. Episode 1, Burned Out and Broken. Another damn self-help book? Done with the I was done. Done with the morning routines, the productivity hacks, the vision boards that only gathered dust. My life had turned into an endless carousel of promises. This book will change you. This app will fix you. This coach will unlock your potential. And each time, I'd fall for it. I'd highlight paragraphs, make mind maps, download trackers. And each time, I'd crash harder. My to-do list looked like and it felt like a browser with 42 now. I sat at my desk surrounded by unread books, browser tabs flickering like broken neon signs, one for a YouTube productivity guru, another for 10 ways to wake up at 5 a.m. My to-do list looked like a war crime. And my brain? It felt like a browser with 42 tabs open and no idea where the music was coming from. Noti was exhausted, not just physically, but existentially. Not tired from doing too much, but from doing too much of the wrong things, for the wrong reasons, with the wrong expectations. So when I saw Atomic Habits trending, again, I felt the another damn self-help book trending, again, I felt the bile rise. Another damn self-help book? I muttered. I bought it anyway. Not out of hope. Not out of curiosity. Out of spite. I wanted to expose it. Rip it apart. Call it out like the others. I cracked the spine like it was a personal challenge. Let's see what you've got, James Clear. But that book? It didn't fight back. It whispered. And in that whisper, something shifted. But that's getting ahead of myself. Episode 2, The First Lie You Believe. I'm just lazy. I leaned back and the book talked about small changes. I didn't expect much from the first chapter. I leaned back in my chair. Arms crossed, eyes half-lidded. The book talked about small changes. Systems. Identity. Identity? I was here to prove a point. Please. I wasn't here for a therapy session. I was here to prove a point. But then I read it again. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Not heavy, that line sat in my chest like a weight. Not heavy, exactly, more like an echo from another time. Math workbook open. Pencil untouched. My father's voice, sharp, tired, suddenly, I was 10 years old again, sitting at the kitchen table. Math workbook open. Pencil untouched. My father's voice, sharp, tired. Why can't you just apply yourself? You're so lazy. That word, lazy, stitched itself into my skin that day. And I wore it like a name tag ever since. Not gifted. Not focused. Just lazy. It followed me to school, to my first job, into every failed project. I thought if I worked harder, I'd outrun it. But no matter how many hours I put in, how many all-nighters I pulled, the lie always caught up to me. And now, Atomic Habits was whispering something dangerous. What if you weren't lazy at all? What if that label was never yours to begin with? That hit me harder than any productivity tip ever could. Because for the first time, I wasn't just questioning my habits. I was questioning who I thought I was. And when your identity starts to crack, the whole house shakes. Episode 3, The Invisible Enemy. Your environment is your master. It started small, almost laughably small. No fancy routine. No motivational speech. Just a 2 secondi moved my journal from my bookshelf to my pillow. That's it. No fancy routine. No motivational speech. Just a 2-second adjustment. Not because suddenly, I was journaling every night. Not because I wanted to, but because it was there too, but because it was there. Staring at me. Waiting. So I tried another, deleted the food delivery apps, and that one shift felt like cheating. So I tried another. Put a water bottle on my desk instead of soda. Replaced the shortcut to Twitter with the Kindle app. Deleted the food delivery apps and put rice in the cooker before opening my laptop. And like that, the cravings started to lose. It wasn't willpower. It was placement. What I thought was willpower? It wasn't willpower. It was placement. That realization hit me like a punch to the gut. For years, I blamed myself. I said I lacked discipline. I wasn't strong enough. Focused enough. But now, it felt like I'd been playing chess against a grandmaster. Blindfolded. My phone? A trap. My fridge? A sabotaged mission. My workspace? A war zone of distraction disguised as convenience. It wasn't that I lacked motivation. It was that I'd built a life that rewarded my worst impulses. And suddenly I wasn't angry at myself anymore. I was angry at the design. That's when it clicked, I wasn't the problem. The room was. Then I could change, and that changed everything. Because if the room was the problem, then I could change the room. Episode 4, The System is Rigged. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. But I never got there. Goals had always felt like distant planets. I'd stare at them from the launch pad, journal about them, build mood boards. But I never got there. So when Atomic Habits said goals don't matter, systems.will laughed. Bitter. I laughed. Bitterly. But I tried anyway. One system. Just one. Every morning, I'd no streaks, no pressured. I set a rule, every morning, I'd open a book instead of my phone. Just one page. No streaks. No pressure. The book was already. I made it ridiculously easy. The book was already open. The phone was in another room. A mug of coffee waited like a silent bribe. Day 1. Then 2. Then 5. Somewhere around day 9, I felt it, stability. Like I'd planted something real and tiny and alive. Then I added another system. A nighttime routine. Not rigid. Not ambitious. Just intentional. Brush teeth. Dim lights. Write one sentence about the day. Not for perfection. For rhythm. And just like that, something inside me shifted. It wasn't the routines that changed me. It was the consistency. The predictability. The self-trust. But with every system I built, a strange silence crept in. No more frantic scrambling. No more chaos. And for the first time in years, I felt powerful. In control. But underneath that power, something else stirred. If I'm no longer surviving the chaos, then who am I without it? It was a quiet question. But sharp. Because I'd built an identity around the struggle. And now? The struggle was gone. That's when I realized, the system wasn't just changing my habits. It was rewriting me. Episode 5, The Discomfort of Progress. Success is boring. Suddenly. Things were working. Journaling like I was reading daily. Journaling at night. Eating like someone who valued themselves. My no streaks broken. No all-nighters. No spirals. My room was clean. My mind, clearer. This was the dream, right? But I wasn't celebrating. I was uneasy. Something felt off, and in the stillness, like I was waiting for a wave that never came. And in the stillness, a strange truth emerged. I missed the mess, the drama of collapsing into bed, the emotional. I missed the high of fixing things at the last second. The drama of collapsing into bed at 3 a.m., swearing I'd change. The emotional adrenaline of starting over again and again and again. That chaos? It wasn't just a habit. It was an identity. It made me feel alive. When everything finally got quiet, I had to sit with myself. And I realized I wasn't addicted to failure. I was addicted to the emotional intensity that came with it. The highs. The crashes. The rebirth. And this slow, steady, predictable progress? It was dull. Stable. Ordinary. But that boredom, it wasn't a flaw in the system. It was withdrawn. I wasn't just letting. And that was the twist no one warned you about. Progress can feel like loss. Because even dysfunction, episode 6, the mirror of identity. Every action is a vote for the person you want to become. I stared into the mirror one morning. Really stared. Not just a glance, but looked. But he wasn't quite me either. The person staring back wasn't a stranger, but he wasn't quite me either. Calmer. He was quieter. Calmer. More in control. But as I studied him, a gnawing question bubbled up. Habits had stitched together this new version of myself, one small, consistent thread at a time. But as I studied him, a gnawing question bubbled up, sharp and relentless. Did I choose this person? Or did the habits choose him for me? Or just a version designed to check boxes and keep the chaos at bay? Was this the me I wanted? Or just a version designed to check boxes and keep the chaos at bay? They were voted. Votes for identity. The routines weren't just habits anymore. They were voted. Votes for identity. But the truth hit me like ice. I didn't want to be high performance. I didn't want to be just productive or disciplined. I wanted to be free. Free from the noise. Free from the expectations. Free from the invisible chains I'd wrapped myself in for years. And that freedom? It didn't come in bullet journals or habit trackers. It came in the space between. The space where I asked, who am I when no one's watching? What if becoming isn't about building a better version, but shedding who I thought I needed to be? That moment in the mirror wasn't just a reflection. It was reckoning. Episode 7, The Collapse. It all falls apart again. And then, it happened. Life threw its worst at me. Illness crept in. Whispering weakness. Grief burnout slammed into my chest like a freight train. Illness crept in, whispering weakness. Grief clawed at the edges of my days. They crumbled overnight. The systems I'd built? They crumbled overnight. Books unopened. Routines forgotten like a distant dream. Journals left blank. Books unopened. Routines forgotten like a distant dream. It rushed back like an old friend with a familiar face. The chaos I had fought so hard to escape? It rushed back like an old friend with a familiar face. But this time, something was different. I watched instead of spiraling, panicking, blaming myself. I watched. I watched the collapse like a silent observer. No shame. No self-loathing. Just quiet acceptance. Because for the first time, falling apart wasn't failure. It was part of the process. A necessary breaking to make room for something new. The twist? I wasn't losing control. I was finally letting go of control. And in that surrender, I found something precious. Peace. Episode 8, The Hidden Chapter. This part wasn't in the book. After the collapse, I returned to Atomic Habits. I flipped through the pages with new eyes, wiser, more cautious. Hoping for answers. I flipped through the pages with new eyes, wiser, more cautious. But the book didn't say what I needed it to. No magic fix. No perfect formula. Instead, I found quiet spaces between the chapters. It was there, in the silence, that the real truth whispered. This book isn't really about habits. It's about agency, about reclaiming control over your life when everything feels designed to steal it. It's about noticing how your environment, your identity, your past, they're not prisons, but choices. The habits? They're the tools, not the destination. It's the reclaiming of yourself. Piece by piece. Moment by moment. The real journey? It's the reclaiming of yourself. Piece by piece. Moment by moment. That's the secret chapter, the one no self-help book ever writes. It's raw. Because real change isn't neat or linear. It's messy. It's raw. It's deeply personal. And it demands more than just reading. It demands living. Episode 9, Becoming the Architect. You don't build habits. You build yourself. After everything, the burnout, the collapse, the reckoning, I realized something profound. I wasn't here to fix myself. I was here Tommy self. I was here to create myself. Myself. Every habit, every routine, every system wasn't just a tool for productivity, they were brushstrokes on the canvas of my identity. I stopped chasing quick hacks or chasing perfection. Instead, I began crafting rituals that felt like love, not obligation. Exercise wasn't punishment, healthy meals weren't restrictions, they were gifts. Morning pages weren't just journaling, they were conversations with my soul. Exercise wasn't punishment, it was gratitude for what my body could do. Healthy meals weren't restrictions, they were gifts. Forgiving the past selves who stumbled, who didn't know better, honoring their struggles as necessary steps on the journey. With every intentional choice, I rebuilt trust with myself. Forgiving the past selves who stumbled, who didn't know better. Honoring their struggles as necessary steps on the journey. Not I became the architect of my life, designing not just habits but a whole new me, one who values patience over speed, presence over perfection. One who values patience over speed, presence over perfection. The power wasn't in what I did, but who I decided to be. And that decision was the greatest habit of all. Episode 10, The Final Habit. You don't just read Atomic Habits. You live it, or you don't. This is it, the final truth that Atomic Habits doesn't ask aloud but screams beneath every page. Doesn't ask aloud but screams beneath every page. Who are you becoming every time no one is watching? Not about thoughts, about the silent, unseen moments. The tiny choices, no nights, not about the morning routine. Not about the journaling or the exercise streak. It's about the silent, unseen moments, the tiny choices no one else sees. They're voting for an identity because habits aren't just actions. They're voting for an identity. And here's the twist, the one I never saw coming. I never actually finished Atomic Habits. I stopped reading when the book stopped being a crutch, when I no longer needed it. Because by then, I had started living it, and life, real, messy, the pages faded into the background, and life, real, messy, imperfect life, took center stage. So, this video isn't just a summary. It's a wake-up call. Because you don't just consume habits. You embody them. You don't just read Atomic Habits. You live it. Or you don't. And the most important question is not what you do. It's who you choose to become, in those quiet, invisible moments.